Okay, art students, we are going to begin painting today. What you need is a clean workspace. You do not want any clutter. You need a good amount of space for all the things that you need. Please work at a table or a desk so that you have the space that you need to do your color mixing. You also want to consider that this paint is acrylic paint and it will not wash out of clothes. So you want to be careful to, maybe put down a piece of newspaper if you would like, or just be really careful when you're painting to make sure paint isn't getting on your table. I always wear an apron because if it gets on your clothes, it will probably not wash off. So that's my recommendation. The paints that you need are acrylic paint, and the only colors that you should have or that you should have out that you're going to use today are black, white, red, blue, and yellow. Those are the primary colors, and black and white. If you have a palette, that's fine. Paper plate works too. Even an old magazine with glossy sheets of paper will do. If you don't have a palette or a paper plate, or even a piece of cardboard would be fine. I have a jar of water and I have a paper towel. So those are all the things that you need for today. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing we're gonna do is open up these paints. If you have these paints this is from the supply list, you'll see that there's a little metal enclosement there, and you just need to take the lid, the pointy part of the lid, and open it. Squeeze out a little bit of yellow, blue, same thing. You don't need a ton of it. At this point, you can always get more if you need it. And red. The first thing that you're gonna do is start, this one's already open, is start by filling in the primary colors on your color wheel. So this is the easy part. You just need to go in, find your red section, and paint it. Now, for the sake of time and this video, I am not gonna fill in my entire day one color mixing boot camp because that will be a very long video. I'm just gonna give you an idea of what you need to do, and then you guys can complete yours today. Now, one thing you need to know is that you have to use your water to clean your paint, but do not add water to these paints right now. The paints work just fine without water, and if you water them down, they will become transparent and runny. The paper towel is good after you clean your brush to just dry it off, okay? I'm gonna fill in the yellow, and then I'm gonna mix one color for you, which is the color between yellow and red. And if you haven't guessed it already, that is the orange, okay? Clean your brush after each time you use a color and you don't want it anymore. I rub it on the bottom of the jar and then I dry it off. Okay, now, big rule here that you need to know for everything. Anytime you're color mixing, you start with the lightest color. This becomes really important when you're trying to mix any color, when you're using white and you want to mix it with any color. You always start with the white. If you try to start with blue and then you add white, you're going to use your whole tube of white paint trying to get a light blue. So always starting with the lighter color. In this situation, the lighter color is yellow. I'm gonna move some of that yellow over just in case I need a plain yellow. I'm gonna clean my brush. I'm gonna dry it off on that paper towel. And a teeny bit of red. Red is a stronger, darker color than yellow, so you only need a little bit, and then you can always add a little more. If you start off with too much, well, it's really hard to lighten it. Now I've got my orange. This is pretty good. A little tiny bit of paint goes a long ways, so don't feel like you need to squeeze out the whole tube. If you got the paints that I asked for on the list, you don't have a ton of paint there. But the good news is it goes a long way and it'll last for a while if you don't squeeze it all out at once. Okay, so I have half my color wheel done. Now, you're gonna do the same thing with the other colors. You're gonna put the blue down, and then you're gonna mix the blue and the red to get purple, starting with the red, because it's lighter. And then same here, yellow and blue make green. Make sure for that one, yellow is really a light color. So please, please make sure that you start with your yellow and then add a tiny bit of blue. Okay, a tint. A tint is a color with white in it. So I want you to make almost like your value scale, but you're gonna do it with one color. So I'm gonna pick blue because that's the color I have here that I haven't used yet. And I'm just gonna start here by putting just the straight blue down. So this is blue with nothing in it. Now there's a few ways that you can do this. I kind of like to do the bookends. I've got my blue, that's where I'm starting. That's gonna be my darkest color. And I'm gonna try to go to my lightest color here. So I'm actually gonna try to mix my lightest color, which is a really, really light blue, starting with the white and adding a teeny blue. And then I'm gonna try to slowly get to this straight blue with no white in it. So I'll show you what I mean. I've got my white paint. Open it up, squeeze it out. You might need a little more white paint than other colors because it does, you know, you need a lot of white paint actually to fill in you're gonna be using it for each color. Okay, so I think I can, there's a lot of ways to do this. I'm gonna start with quite a bit of light paint and I'm gonna just slowly add the blue to it and keep adding more and more for each box until I get to the straight blue. So I'm gonna start with just a teeny bit. So this is gonna be my lightest blue. Okay, just a tiny bit. This is like your sky blue. Make sure you mix it in really, really well. This is my lightest here. A nice light blue. Almost looks white. Okay. Clean your brush. Dry it off. Now add a little bit more blue. Now I've got my next one. Please try to dry your brush off. I can see that my paint is getting a little bit of water in it from cleaning my brush. So use that paper towel to really dry your brush off. Now you should see a difference between each box. So this one is slightly darker. Okay. Now I'm not gonna fill in the whole thing. As I said, I would really like you guys to spend time on it and I don't wanna make this video too long. I'm now gonna show you the shade. The shade is a color, again, where you slowly add black to it. And the last box should be almost solid black. I'm gonna use red for this one because I have some red paint here. So I'm gonna start. Here is my color that has nothing in it. It's not mixed with anything. It's just the color I chose. You guys can pick any color you want. You do not have to do blue and red. That's just what I picked. Okay, I've got my red. I'm gonna squeeze out some black. This isn't even opened yet, brand new. You really need only a tiny bit of black. Black is your darkest color. And as soon as you add a little bit of black to your red, you'll see it's gonna start getting really dark fast. So tiny dot of black. I'm gonna add it straight into my red. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep adding it until I get to this last box. You might run out of paint. So keep that in mind. If you do, you're just gonna have to try to match it and keep going. So this red is just a tiny bit darker than the one in the first box. I added a dot of black to it. Now I'm gonna clean my brush. I'll do one more and then I'm gonna end the video so you guys can get started. Again, just a tiny bit of black. You can see how dark that got. Now, this is a good teaching moment here. I think this is too much. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm really trying to only lighten a little bit and I can see I'm gonna run out of paint anyways. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add some red there and try to get it a little closer to that color, but maybe just one step darker. Okay, that's a little bit better. Okay, there we go. So you might have to do a little bit of that to get it correct. You want to make sure that you see a difference, that it's going darker and darker each step. And these are your shades. All right, let's get started.